I met our speaker tonight when she started coming here in 2017 to the recovery meeting, then known as Celebrate Recovery. I'm so blessed to call her one of my closest friends and accountability partners. While I was reading through her testimony, I was reminded of a verse found in 1 Peter 5:10. It says, "After you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called us to his eternal glory through Christ Jesus, will restore, support, strengthen, and establish you." Katie's story is one with many painful moments, but it's also one of restoration and renewal through God's grace and mercy. So everyone, stand to your feet and give a great big Forever Free welcome to Katie.
Simmer down now. Good evening, Forever family. I'm a grateful believer in Jesus, in recovery for PTSD and depression, and my name is Katie. Hey. Tonight, I want to tell you a major part of my story. For those of you who have been here for a while, you've already heard about my childhood. You heard how my parents' divorce, a deteriorating relationship with my dad, sexist comments, and attention from the wrong person set the stage for my low self-worth and depression. But my childhood and teen years were nothing compared to what I went through in my 20s and 30s. I don't really know what happened. I don't know what set me on a different path. In junior high and high school, anytime a guy would do the first thing wrong, look at me the wrong way, say the wrong thing, or do anything I didn't like, I'd walk away. But for some reason, that all changed in college. My first college relationship was so different. He was older. I let it slide so he could go to the club. I let it slide when he called me names and told me I'd never amount to anything more than a whore. I let it slide when he told me I was too stupid to do anything other than migrant work. I let so much slide with him because I so desperately wanted to be seen by someone better than me. I was so desperate for affection that I let it slide when he treated me like garbage. When it was over, I was upset. I lashed out. I reacted to his words in the worst way possible. He said I'd never be good for anything other than sex, and I spent the next 3 years going through guys like my tomato plants go through water. I guess his words got to me because I spent 3 years being exactly what he said I was. And the best part is, even though I was throwing myself at these guys, I blamed them for taking advantage of me. I thought it had all turned around when I was 22. I met a good guy, a church guy. Our relationship lasted almost a year, my longest relationship at that point. We went to church together, hung out with our families together, hung out with our friends together. We even got engaged. I thought he was the perfect guy until he wasn't. A couple of months before we were supposed to get married, he decided to join the Coast Guard. Okay, no big deal. We postponed the wedding to an unknown later date. And then he stopped calling me. He stopped texting me. He stopped wanting to hang out with me. The day before he left for basic training, he finally called me. He wanted to tell me goodbye. Was it because he was about to be gone for 8 weeks? Nope. It's because he was breaking up with me. Why, you ask? Because he had a thing for a friend of ours and wanted to be able to be with her when he got back from training. I was devastated. He told me that she was willing to do things with him that I wasn't. How would he know what she was willing to do and not willing to do? He was my fiance, my boyfriend. He shouldn't have been doing those things with our friend. So here I was, 23, only good for sex. I wasn't even good enough at that to keep my own fiance from fooling around with our friend. And trust me, I use the term friend loosely. I was a mess. It was in this mess that I met my now ex-husband. I walked into this relationship with zero self-worth, and I was the prime target for abuse. Once again, all I wanted was attention and affection. All I wanted was to matter to someone and to be seen. It wasn't long, though, before he started being possessive and controlling. He would belittle me and yell at me. He would throw things at me and accuse me of cheating on him, which I wasn't, in case you're wondering. I don't know why I thought I could make him happy or make it better, but for some reason I did. I moved in with him. I said yes when he asked me to marry him. I said I do when the preacher asked me if I was tying my life to his. Shortly after we got married, he bought a house 20 minutes south of the Arkansas-Missouri border, and he moved us away from anyone and everyone we knew. As bad as things were before, they got so much worse once he moved us away. It got so bad that on the night that I finally had enough and left, it was amid threats to my life. Had I stayed with him, I know without a shadow of a doubt, I would not have made it to see my 30th birthday, much less my 40th or any that are still ahead of me. So here I was, broken, lonely, going through a divorce, scared of my soon-to-be ex-husband, and still looking in all the wrong places for love and affection. Once again, I found said love and affection in yet another wrong person. Less than 2 weeks before my divorce was finalized, I was pregnant with my then boyfriend's child. Looking back, all I can do is shake my head and sigh. I wish I could give the girl I used to be a great big hug and tell her that she's better than the crap she put us through. Don't get me wrong. Joe, you are 100% the best part of my life. I do not regret having you. I do not regret walking away from that toxic situation. If taking everything back meant that I wouldn't have you, I'd go through all of it all over again, every single day just to get to you. But I wasn't healthy. I wasn't happy. I spent so much of his early childhood in the darkness that was my mind. I was basically suicidal. I wasn't a good mom. And he did, and still does, deserve so much better than that. Now back to my laundry list of bad decisions and black hole of depression. While I was pregnant and single, I tried to date, but let's be honest, no guy wants to get into a relationship with someone pregnant with another guy's kid. There were a couple guys who wanted to spend time with me, but never more than just a few hours. Again, I was living up to the words of my first college boyfriend. Once I had my son, postpartum tacked on top of my normal depression. I spent 3 years doing everything I knew how to do just to keep my head above water. And let me tell you, I was failing miserably. When my son turned 3, he and I were living with my then boyfriend. Y'all see a pattern here? He was controlling and accusatory. His ex cheated on him, so he thought all women cheated. Again, I did not. Never have, never will. What's the point of being with someone when you want to be with someone else? But I couldn't get him to understand that. I had lost my job because kiddo got sick and I had to miss work. This guy was so controlling that he wouldn't allow me to get another job. It makes sense, though. He didn't want me around people that he did not know. He didn't want me to be self-sufficient. If I didn't have a job, I'd have to ask for money to go anywhere. He had total control over everything. Well, almost everything. He did not have control when I got sick. He didn't have control when I almost died. He didn't have control when I had to have emergency surgery. The days that I was out of his control were good for me. They helped me to see how bad things were. When I got back to his home after my hospital stay, all he cared about was what he wanted. Yet again, all I mattered for was what I could do for him or what he could get from me. This time, though, I stood up for myself. I didn't back down. I told him that one more outburst, like the toddler tantrum he threw when he didn't get sex, and I was going to pack up my son and leave. We'd go back to my mom and stepdad's house. No big deal. Less than a week later, that's exactly what happened. I know what you're thinking. I was finally standing up for myself. Things should be better. My life was going to turn around. I was finding my strength and my voice, and I wish I could say that was true, but I can't. What happened next was way worse than anything I had ever been through. In August and September of 2014, I went on 2 dates with 2 different guys that I met. One from Facebook and the other from a dating site. I don't know why some guys feel the need to take what they want regardless of the consequences, but these 2 did. 2 sexual assaults in 2 months. Did I report them? No. Why not? They were both military. One a Marine, the other Army. Why would anyone believe me over them? Why would anyone take the word of a single mom living with her parents over the heroes of our country who fought for our freedoms? In my mind, both situations were my fault. I knew better than to get into his car on a first date. And I knew better than to go to his house on a first date. I knew better, and yet I did it anyway. As I'm sure you can imagine, my depression tanked, and now I had PTSD added to the mix. I was just a big, fun bag of party tricks. So what did I do? I gave in to the darkness. I spent the next 3 years trying to escape the demons in my mind. I spent those years hating myself. I lost myself in my depression and PTSD, and I lost everything that made me special. I lost my smile. I lost my laugh. I lost my spark. I was a zombie, a shell of who I used to be. I was on autopilot, and this plane was headed straight for a mayday. Eventually, I got better, or I thought I was getting better. In April of 2017, I was on a date with a firefighter. You know, the guys who save people for a living. Yeah, I thought he would be safe, but he wasn't. However, this time, when he didn't take no for an answer, I didn't stop fighting back until I had gotten away. I would love to tell you that this Wonder Woman moment gave me a boost to my psyche, but I'd be lying if I did. I may have gotten away from him, but I didn't get away from the downward spiral caused by my PTSD coming out to play. It was during this downward spiral that I reached out for help, and a friend of mine invited me to a recovery meeting at his church. My first night at what was then Celebrate Recovery at First NLR was a chip night. It was not at all what I expected. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect. But cheering and noisemakers, worship music, and lots of smiling people was not it at all. Often you'll hear Pastor Lane talk about people who come here and hate it at first. They walk in scared and unsure. They want nothing more than to leave. Some of them are here by choice. Some are court-ordered, or the home they're in gives them no choice. They don't have a lot in common, except that they don't really want to be here. I was not one of those people. I had been desperate for change for so long. I needed a different life. Everything I had spent the last 15 years doing clearly was not working. So if this place had what I needed, I was diving in head first. The first thing I did was I joined a step study. It was like being cut open and left to bleed out. only bleeding out was exactly what you needed to live. I learned so many things about myself. The most important thing that I learned was that I had been looking for love in all the wrong places. Duh. The guys in my past couldn't love me because I didn't love me. On top of that, I wasn't allowing God to love me because I was ashamed. All of the guys in my past, the things they said, they all stuck with me. I was a big ball of low self-worth and negative self-talk. I didn't want God, our amazing, perfect God, to be dirtied by all the disgusting parts of my past and things in my mind. Before I could learn to love myself, I had to learn to allow God to love me. It wasn't easy. Well, it was easy, or at least it was simple. I had to tear down my walls and admit my faults. I had to take an open and honest look at my relationships and own the part that I played in everything. The hardest part of all of it was forgiving myself. I had to forgive myself for overlooking red flags. I had to forgive myself for allowing guys to treat me like a piece of trash. I had to forgive myself for not demanding respect and demanding to be treated right. Once I forgave me, I was slowly able to start forgiving them. Most of them anyway. I'm still working on forgiving the 2 who assaulted me. I was even able to tell my ex-husband that I forgave him, even though he didn't want to hear it. You know, the great thing about steps 8 and 9 is that the amends you make is more about your relationship with God than it is your relationship with the people you're making amends to. When you apologize to someone, they may not accept it. They may not be ready to forgive you, and that's okay. Apologize anyway. When you forgive someone, they may not accept it. They may not be ready to admit that they did anything wrong, and that's okay. Forgive them anyway. Proverbs chapter 28, verse 13 says, "Whoever conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will obtain mercy." The Lord's Prayer even says, "Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive others." Nowhere does God tell us, forgive them if they apologize, or make amends only if they accept your apology. Quite the opposite, actually. Between Proverbs and the prayer taught to us by Jesus, it's clear that if we don't admit our faults and forgive others for theirs, we will not find forgiveness and mercy. And our lives will be stalled, never getting any better than they are in that very moment. Oh, Goyson. For me, things did get better. I made new friends who love me for who I am, broken pieces and all. Friends like Danielle and Kelsey, Marissa and Chris, Rhonda, Randall and Laura, Sandra, Vicky, Rainey, and so many more who have proven to me that I am worthy of friendship. I'm worthy of being loved by people who want nothing from me except for me to be me. When I first came into recovery, I told God that I was done with dating. Clearly, it hadn't gotten me where I wanted to be. All it had done was cause more damage. I made a deal with God. I told him that when he was ready for me to meet the man he created for me and created me for, he would literally have to put him in my path in a way that was obvious that this was the man God wants me with. And he did. While I was working on me here, he was working on my now husband in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. I met Greg when he came home from Adult and Teen Challenge, where he was working with God to rid himself of his vices. I won't go into details about what his vices were, because that's his story to tell, and I hope he tells it soon. Hint, hint. But when he came home, we became friends thanks to my friendship with Danielle and his with Kelsey. It wasn't long before we were best friends, and on January 12th, 2019, we became husband and wife. So this recovery program that we now call Forever Free gave me my strength, my hope, my love, my life, and my friends. But does it really do that for everyone? The truth is, it doesn't. Because not everyone is ready. Not everyone works their program. I've completed 3 step studies and 1 process group. I'm here almost every week. In the course of a year, I miss 2, maybe 3 Tuesday nights at most. I go to group and share with my sisters. I stay in worship and listen to the lesson. And I go to almost every volunteer and leadership training. I have a sponsor, and when I feel like I'm slipping or something is bringing me down, I talk to my sponsor or accountability partners. If you're not willing to do those things, this program won't work for you. However, if you're willing to do even one of those things, even if all you're willing to do is show up every week, God will do the rest. So many of us here spent weeks, months even, holding tightly to our hurts and habits, not wanting to let go of even one hang-up because we didn't know who we would be without them. But God still did what God does. He still worked in our lives and changed us for the better. So many of us have had God move in our lives even when we didn't think we were ready for him. Time and time again, God uses people who are broken and lost. In the book of Genesis, we hear the story of Joseph. His brothers sold him into slavery, but he managed to earn a spot as one of the Pharaoh's trusted advisors. The dreams God gave him caused hate from his brothers, but they saved the lives of the Pharaoh's people. He was able to aid the Pharaoh in planning and taking care of his people. Genesis chapter 50, verse 20 says, "What you intended to harm me, God intended for good, and now I'm in the position to save the lives of many." This was spoken by Joseph to his brothers when they came to collect grain after their crops dried up in the drought. He forgave them for what they did to him and was able to see God's hand in the end result. Genesis 50:20 is my life verse. There was a time when I questioned God. I doubted if he even cared about me. I spent years crying out to him, asking why he let those things happen to me. Now I can see he did not cause me to be assaulted. He did not cause me to be abused. Those things happened because those people refused to listen to God. But God got me through them. God heard my prayers for survival, for life. God has healed me and put me in a position to use my story and my life to help others. So to those who hurt me in the past, I say this: you did not break me. You did not kill my spirit. You did not ruin me. You did not beat me, but you did put me exactly where I needed to be for God to use me to fulfill his plan. So thank you. And to those of you who are new here, keep coming back. Stick around. It may take some time, but we have your back. We will stand with you while God is working in you. If you're ready for change, you're in the right place. Life is hard. Recovery is hard, but you're not in this fight alone anymore. God loves you, and we love you, and we can't wait to see the person God is making you into. We know without a doubt that the new you will be as proud of you for being here as we are. My name is Katie. I love you guys, and thank you for letting me share part of my story.